Hello my loves, welcome back to Zeke's Lunchbox. Today we are going to test out some markers that were sent to me, not sponsored, they just sent them to me and then I just figured why not make a video about it to see how they go. Honestly, the trust that they have in influencers, because like we could just be talking smack. Acrylic paint markers, they are supposedly meant to work on any surface, so plastic, glass, paper, just general art materials, and also I think these are mostly really good for crafters, especially if you're organizing and you need to label all of your jars or whatnot. Could be really cool. They've sent me two different kinds. We have the medium tip and then the extra fine tip. Because they're paint pens, I imagine they are possibly similar to this brand here, Posca markers, and just other paint pens. We'll see if it's any good and test it out and see if they're the sort of markers that I would, put into the rotation in terms of drawing in my sketchbook. I will put a playlist down below if you want to see more sketchbook content from me. I've got a bunch of sketchbook tours, drawing in my sketchbook, thumbnailing, playing with new mediums. There's a lot of sketchbook content on this channel, so if you haven't been here in a while or you've never been here before, this is a good time to catch up. Pop that playlist on and let the watching flow. Let's get into it. Alright, so these are the pens that I am going to test out today. As you can see on the packaging, it says that the pens can be used on all of these surfaces. I won't be using them and testing them out on those surfaces for this video because for me, painting on glass, ceramic, all of the other things mentioned feels disingenuous to my practice. The context in which I would use these is mostly in my sketchbook, so that's what we're going to test out today. They sent me two different sizes, so the medium and then the extra fine tip. Let's unbox them now, review what these are like. Interesting. You can see here when they come out of the box, the ink is separated from the other materials, I guess like the more painted materials. This being the ink and this being, I think, the acrylic paint. Just because it's clear, normally pens are just solid here, so we don't see in Poscas and other paint pen brands, we don't see that separation, but when you mix it up, which is what you do with Copic and Posca markers, you gotta give them a bit of a shake. The tip of it is similar to a Posca marker, so just a regular paint pen. The extra fine tip looks pretty good. I don't have any extra fine Posca markers, so it'll be nice to have that option with these. Let's open up the mediums. Again, it has the see-through base here, so you got to give it a good mix before you use them. And very similar to all the other acrylic paint pens. So for comparison's sake, here is the more well-known paint pens, the Posca pens. And on the left here is the Artistro pen. So pretty similar in size. The nibs are pretty similar as well, although the Artistro one's a little bit longer. Let's sample and swatch these bad boys. I've already drawn a little page here just so we can get stuck right into it. I am going to be using the pens in a mixed medium format, so I like to put down a wash of watercolor just to have something to be my base, because right now I don't enjoy going straight on white because it just feels really stark and you have to work your way up quite a lot in colors. So I like to have just a bit of a base down and then I'll work my way up with the paint pens. Put down the watercolor and then I'm going to go in with my stencil here and place the stencil in all of the negative spaced areas and try and swatch all of the paint pens. I don't know if I'll have enough space, but we'll see. When I do swatches, I don't want to just do like boring little circle swatches because like I do want my sketchbook to be somewhat just a little bit more interesting. I might be spilling over to a different page here or even over to this page as well. So yeah, we'll see.
Alrighty, you guys. So I wanted to show you guys some painting in real time just because I feel like I don't show that off enough, and I wanted to show a more realistic side of painting, especially drawing in my sketchbook. When you see things kind of unedited somewhat and in real time, you can see the hesitation in my gestural strokes and also the concentration as well. Between each stroke and between loading up each brush, there is a lot of, you know, little strokes, pausing, thinking, applying more, blending it out. I think it's important to see that sort of hesitation and that sort of concentration demonstrated before you. There's also a lot of hesitation because when I am drawing in my sketchbook, I'm really making up the color palette as I go along. I have no idea what color palette I'm planning on using, so I kind of just instinctively go for a color that I like first and foremost. Because there was red line, I decided to go with some more warmer colors. And then after that, I'm looking at my reference picture and kind of matching the tones to the reference picture. And now I'm talking specifically about tones and not colors. Variation of color matches the paint. So, you know, like a really light area of the skin, I'd go for a yellow. That's what I mean by tone. I also stuck with some pinks and reds for the face because I wanted the face to be quite warm. I knew that I would be using greens for the foliage and a varying amount of different greens. So some cooler greens, some more greens that have yellow in them, some greens that have more of a aqua blue base in them. So I wanted something that was contrasting in color, so each subject matter would really stick out as much as possible. So the greens would be very separate from the reds, and you know, that way you get some really good separation in your subject matter. Alright, so the ladies have their base color on. I'm actually obsessed with these two. Like, they are looking so freaking fierce. So I'm gonna test out, oh my lord, what's happening here? I'm spilling everything. Take two. I'm going to test out the fine tip markers. I kind of suspect that this is going to be a little bit laborious and tedious, but I will talk you through my first impressions. Can I also just straight up say, like, this packaging, like, let's just say it is pretty cheap, y'all. But hey, that doesn't actually mean too much. I actually find a lot of cheap art supplies do a really good job. So I actually have no idea how much this product is. They just sent it to me and I'm just playing with it. So you guys, this is how much the Artistro packs are. Yeah, let's sample these. I'm gonna try and do it in a rainbow. We'll see if I can do that. I'm gonna arrange them now, then fill out this little section here. And then this section here will be for the fatter tipped markers. You guys, so I have been shaking, pumping, really trying to aggravate and activate these pens. I'm having a lot of trouble getting the ink through in order for them to actually work. Here are a bunch of other markers that I've been attempting to activate, but I'm not having much luck, unfortunately. I'm going to just keep going and see how many of these I can get to work. The brush tip is very different to a Posca marker. This one's more like a hard plastic and the Poscas are more like a felt. I don't know, maybe that has something to do with how difficult it is for the paint to seep through to the nib. But yeah, I'm going to go through the rest of them and see if I can swatch any more. But otherwise, to be quite honest, it might be a complete fail trying to use these, but we'll see. So with this girl, I I wanted to bring some warmth to the face. Purple's a really funny color because it is kind of in between being cool and being warm. I think that's why I really enjoy using it in a lot of my pieces. I feel like it's a really good bridge to gap the cooler colors to the warmer colors. So plopping the pinks in the face just to give it a bit of warmth and liven it up a little bit. I also at this point got really frustrated with the markers, so I just went back to my trusty watercolor. I know just with watercolors I can get the colors down and then blend them out in areas that I need to blend them out in. With markers, because they don't blend out, I do find that I need to use them in very particular areas where I know I don't need to blend, and that's why I use markers as a topper. But yeah, markers are really good for that. Okay, so while Miss Cute Fairy Ting over here is drying, I want to take you through all of the art supplies that I am using in this sketchbook. I haven't really talked about the art supplies for quite some time, and because the markers are such a flop, I have to, let's talk about some other things that actually are exciting to me and things that I actually do enjoy. I mean, look, the markers aren't a complete flop, half the markers are a flop. Will I continue to use them when I'm playing around in my sketchbook? I'm gonna see and give them a go. I don't know if I will use the fine liner ones, but for the others, I will probably still use these in conjunction with the other Posca markers. Things that I do enjoy, however, I will link all of the supplies that I'm using down below in the description. I am using the Prima watercolor palette. So I've got 4 different palettes that I have bought from them, and then I've popped them in one big palette just so I'm not opening up 4 tiny little containers. Here I think I've got the skin colored one, the pastel palette, the tropical palette, and then the classic palette. So there's 4 palettes in one here, and this is my go-to watercolor palette that I use for my sketchbook. Again, everything linked below. For drawing the red outlines, these are my absolute go-tos, the Beak Classic Fine Liners. Again, I use these for everything in my sketchbook. The only pens that I use, because I do like how light the line is and it's very fine, as it says. For my sketchbook, I am using the Handbook Co. sketchbook, the brand over there. And if you've been watching on this channel for quite some time, you'll know that that's basically the only sketchbook I've been using over the last couple of years. It takes watercolor really, really well, and also it lays down perfectly flat, so I really love this sketchbook. I think for my next sketchbook, however, I might switch over to something else that has a different paper, just because I do find that I can't quite use colored pencils or just use it as a regular pencil sketchbook, just because the tooth on the paper does have quite a bit of texture, and I find that pencil stuff just doesn't quite work as well in this. It's very, very much a mixed media watercolor gouache sort of sketchbook and less of a pencil and pen sketchbook. I've been finding that I've been wanting to do a lot more really quick drawings with just a pencil, just regular black pencils, with all the different weights and heaviness of the lead. I've been wanting to do a lot more of that sort of drawing, and it'd be nice to have a sketchbook that's dedicated to that. And then for my brushes, all of my brushes are such a mixed bag. They're all over the place. I usually just buy my brushes in the big mega packs, especially for just sketchbook stuff, because I find that the cheaper ones do the job. I will put all of those supplies down in the description if you're interested, because I do get those questions every now and then, and I feel like I haven't talked about the supplies for quite some time. Mostly because they haven't changed for a long time, but for everybody who's new, that's what I use for sketchbooks. Okay, you guys,
It's the next day and we are going to finish off this spread here of these two ladies. I didn't really feel like finishing it yesterday. It's just as simple as that. So we're gonna do that right now. Just gonna add a little bit more depth into the darkest areas and, you know, try and make the silhouette a little bit more apparent, especially in the separation of the wings and the dress, this area in particular. And then also just adding a bit more depth into the plants, especially this flower here. A little bit more depth into the features of the face, add some more shadows. Just keep playing. Now I'm going to do that with a combination of colored pencils, the watercolor palette that I have here, and then of course I'll be attempting to pop in the markers as much as possible as well. Now I have picked out these colors here because those are the colors that are already in the piece, so I'll try and add those in and go from there. I don't know if I clarified yesterday, but the medium tipped markers have been perfectly fine and have been a good dupe for the Posca markers. Whereas, you know, the extra fine ones, I think we all know how those turned out. All right, let's do it. All right, folks, we've done it. We've finished. We've drawn with the markers. Let me know what you guys think of this piece. Let me know if you would use these markers. Obviously, I'll link everything below if you want to grab some for yourself. Again, not sponsored, but they did send them to me. And you guys, I didn't record a outro and I didn't say goodbye, so I'm going to do that right now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, make sure you subscribe and like. If you want to support the channel, you can head over to my Patreon where I give custom advice and lots of help to guide you on your art journey, or you could grab something from my shop on zekeslunchbox.com. I will see you guys next week. Catch you then. Let's see some art.